Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. It's the Friday before Christmas. I had to go out and do some last minute Christmas shopping, and it's a freaking zoo out there. It's like people fighting over parking spots that are a mile away from the store that you're going at. I was on the phone with Russ this morning, and I'm trying to turn into the aisleway in front of Target, and there's some octogenarian driving an SUV with a license plate that says Trek fan. So I immediately think it's either Captain Kirk or Bones McCoy. And they're driving at about 3 miles an hour and refuse to get out of the way of like everybody who's trying to get to the other side. So it is really surprising how many stupid people are on the road.
Well, I told you that woman who ran into me last year, like there was a light out. She wasn't paying attention. She ran into my car. She ended up being at fault, but this is the kind of time of the year where I stay away from all that stuff. I do my best anyhow. But all right, so let's talk about a couple things. First one is there's a reason I never cruise. 2 cruise ships from the same cruise company rammed into each other.
Oh, Jesus. What is this? The Andrea Doria and the Stockholm?
No, they were docked. They were docked. So my question is, do these captains get tested and do they have to practice parallel parking? Because obviously it happened during that process. And if you wonder why someone like me on the outside has no faith in cruising, it's because all these stories are out there.
Well, okay, here are the top 3 reasons why I refuse to go on a cruise. 1, I know people who have gotten sick on cruises, not because of seasickness, but because of like E. coli or something like that. Because they store food on these things, and you look at these ships and like they're quintuple decks with 500 rooms. Yep. They don't exactly look stable. I would assume that they are seaworthy, but you have seen instances where they've tipped over. Not the Poseidon Adventure, but stuff like that. So 1 is. One is health. 2 is you're trapped on a boat for what, 2 weeks?
With occasional stop-offs, yeah.
With the occasional stop-off at places that you probably don't want to go. So if you want to be stuck on a ship for 2 weeks, and like if there's gambling on there, or I know friends who go over there and their bill for the bar is more than the ticket.
Right.
And I don't drink that much. I can't drink that much. I'm a diabetic, so
right.
It really, and I'm not the biggest fan of really tropical temperatures either. So, okay, I don't like warm temperatures. I don't want to be stuck on the same place for 2 weeks. And, I don't want to be stuck in the same room it doesn't sound like a pleasurable experience. So
they make them like malls. There's a lot of stuff to do on there. But at the end of the day, I just have no interest. And like I said, I don't know what kind of testing these captains get. But to me, that's like a whole new thing now. Wondering how they get certified and everything else, because there are so many of these out there. It makes me wonder. That's all.
I don't want to see Gopher and Doc and Isaac, the bartender, and Julie McCoy. Okay, look,
you know why people do them? Because food's included and they're cheap, and you get to see these islands. And I don't care.
Drew says Mike is as blue as his shirt.
I'm wearing gray.
At least I'm not gray.
I'm wearing gray today. All right, so we switch over and try to think what was the other topic was holiday movies. So I did see Star Wars last night. I'm not giving it away. Don't worry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to give it away. Let me tell you, here's the spoiler. Arya killed the Night King.
I enjoyed it, but I will tell you this. The thing that worries me about the franchise is just what I saw in print the other day, that they're going to make movies for at least the next 10 years and possibly more. They didn't say how many, but they said they're definitely doing more than a trilogy. And based on the amount that they're already doing for the Disney Channel, the Disney Plus, and whatever they might put in the theaters, I don't know, man. They could kill Star Wars. They could.
I think they will kill Star Wars because it's just overkill. And okay, I thought it was overkill when they went for the second trilogy, and the second trilogy wasn't that great as opposed to the first 3. Now everything, usually sequels get worse. Now at the beginning of this third trilogy, the first one I think was the best. I haven't seen the third one. You have. The second one I thought was terrible.
I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only thing I liked in the second one was when Mark Hamill goes. Other than that, I thought it was a waste of time.
Right.
But now if they're like, they see dollar signs, and they're gonna keep going.
Well, all right. So let's be fair here, though. So how many Star Wars do you own, right? I looked at what Lucas used to do to people and got crazy about it, right? So I still have the original box set on VHS because I could watch it. It's uncut, and it actually has the real cut, which shows like Tatooine and the other planet like longer than in the actual movie theater. I have that, right? Then I did buy a DVD for most of the ones that came out after. I didn't buy the special added effects. I didn't go see it in the movies for the special added effects. Why? Because they added it, and I didn't want anything added. Yeah. I'd like to see it the way it was. Now, again, when they come out with these extra trilogies with everything else, I don't get sucked into it. And Lucas was the master of that.
Right. After in the chat, a couple people were saying, and I really liked Rogue One, but Rogue One isn't part of the series.
Right. That's another offshoot. Right. And Rogue One was really good. But again,
I heard Solo was terrible.
It wasn't great. No, it wasn't great. Here's the problem. It's like if this story is about Michael right? And then Michael son and his daughter after that and his son after that, how much do you continue to care for these other characters? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
Right. And, then Michael will be 70 and die off. And, then it should end all there because,
That's it. What else can follow that?
Nothing's better than the original.
So the other holiday movie. So I did see an extended trailer for Top Gun. And, I saw Tom Cruise doing a stress test, which was ridiculous because I'm sure he had to do that before he shot the movie. But at Tom Cruise's age, he wouldn't be allowed to fly anyhow. He couldn't fly a mission.
But again,
that's reality.
Again, we don't know where this is set at. Like he could be saying this is 2002 or 2010, and he's 40 or 45, and I'm sure there are fighter pilots and pilots in the Air Force that are over 40.
But definitely not over 50.
No, I wouldn't think over 50. No.
Well,
so he's supposed to. He's a maverick. He's like he should be an admiral, and or a commodore, and he's a captain. So he's doing the James T. Kirk thing. He
looked legit bad.
I didn't think it looked bad at all. He refuses to be Kirk did. He refused to be an admiral because he couldn't be the commander of a ship. He wants to be out on the ship. So whatever. But I mean,
okay. So I saw that.
Right.
I did see an extended trailer for 1917. That looks fantastic.
Yeah, that's an IMAX movie for me.
The realism of what it looked like those soldiers used to have to go through was tremendous. So that's what grabs you there.
Did you see the Bond trailer?
Yeah, I did. Well, hold on. The other thing is, so now anything involving England, Colin Firth has to be in the movie. It seems like that's the trend now.
Or Benedict Cumberbatch.
Right. It's one or the other. They switch off, and they're like the only two that are allowed now. Okay. I did see the Bond trailer. It didn't grab me, man.
Really? Oh my God. I mean,
it didn't grab me.
So Scott, I believe other than the Connery Bond movies, which are completely different, because they're throwbacks. I thought Skyfall was the best Bond movie ever made.
I don't think it was the best, but like you said, are you saying it's the best including Connery or
excluding anything?
And I agree with you.
Yes, it was the best one ever made, and then the follow-up to it was not good.
It wasn't great.
So now this is the follow-up to the follow-up, and it's Daniel Craig's last. So I'm wondering whether it'll be more like the last one or more like Skyfall. I'm willing to give it a chance. So I'm
just not willing to spend movie money on it. I'll see it somewhere at some point. The special effects look great. The cars are great. The girls are great. But it just didn't grab me. At some point, the problem is,
yes,
with James Bond back in the day, there was nothing else like it. Right. And now over the years, you got the Bourne Identity, there's 100 other things like James Bond.
Right. And now it's more nostalgia than anything. I mean, one of the things about Skyfall,
they're playing on nostalgia.
Yeah, one of the things about Skyfall was the scene where he goes to the garage and he pulls out the Aston Martin.
Right.
And and he threatens to eject the passenger in the car. So
right.
I mean, this is the thing. It's like if nostalgia is done well, I'm all for it. If it's done as a crutch, where all they do is and I don't know this for sure. I just saw like a review of the preview for Top Gun that one of the pilots is Goose's son. One of the pilots is Iceman's son, and there's a conflict there because Iceman basically killed Goose.
Right.
You believe that? So, if that's the case, then it's going to be really schmaltzy and I don't know, but
right. So then it switched, and I saw Wonder Woman 1984. When you watch it on your computer, it's not the same as watching it on the big screen. It really, looks like DC is doing a great job on this again, and the action's good. I know you're mad at the Lyle Wagner character,
Chris Pine.
Yeah,
no, they killed.
What his name is in Steve, whatever. He's still alive.
They killed him off, and now he's coming back. It's like, okay, you think X-Men is ridiculous?
But it's in 1984. That's why he's there.
Right, he died in 1918.
Well, we don't know why yet.
Is this his grandson, and she's having an affair with his grandson?
We don't know why yet.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for seeing anything with Gal Gadot in it. Please. She was one of them.
It does look very good, and I think they've done a nice job. And the guy from Stranger Things, the dad, is has a big part in that, and it looks like it's partially comical, and he's a superhero as well. She has a sister, so it's interesting. I think they did a good job. They showed Mulan live action. It's like, stop, Disney. Just stop with the live action.
When are they coming out with Fantasia again?
I mean, it's just, come on. I mean, what's next? Herbie the Love Bug live action? I mean, it was live action. Like, I don't know. Oh, animated. I guess Herbie the Love Bug animated would be the next.
Yeah. I mean, are they going to get – because wasn't like one of the Herbie the Love Bugs, wasn't that like Lindsay Lohan and then Michael Keaton was in one?
Yeah. And again – the problem with that is, I'll tell you why it worked when we were kids. I'm a little older than you, but the reason it worked is because the actor Dean, whatever his last name is,
Dean Winters.
No, it's not Dean Winters.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's Dean something. He was in all of them, so it was concurrent, right? It was like having The Rock on retainer, and he did them all, so there was a continuity. There's no continuity with this. I don't care. I didn't have any interest. I saw in the lobby that they had this thing called Underwater, and to me it looks like Waterworld, but they went underwater instead. Like, it's just, I don't care.
Yeah, Dean Jones, thank
you. And it's just, so I have no interest in that. And then this is the one that threw me. Well, there's two of them. The one that threw me, instead of Hansel and Gretel, it's Gretel and Hansel is on the poster. And I don't know if this is it in like Israeli where I have to read left to right. Was I just not reading it right? It was just bizarre. Why would it be the opposite? Like, why are you changing that? Do you have any idea on that?
What, they're changing to Gretel and Hansel?
Right, instead of Hansel and Gretel. Like, we always say Hansel and Gretel.
Well, and now it's in alphabetical order, but it's
no, the name of the movie is Gretel and Hansel.
Right. I'm saying it's in alphabetical order. Gretel G, Hansel H.
But that's not how people. Even if
I know. But all they're doing is,
even if you look it up on and you ask Siri, the first thing that comes up is Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, they're doing the same friggin' movies over, so they got to do something different.
And then there's another movie where there's these two women. I'm not sure what they're doing. There's some sort of escapades. You never see their face. They're just talking. I had no interest. I just was like, just play something else. So to be honest, to recap, I saw like 8 trailers, and I'm interested in 2 of the movies. Oh, I forgot. Black Widow looked good. So that's That's one of them. And Ryan Reynolds is in a superhero movie, which it seems like he's really good in it, but it seems like because it's in a video game world, and they kind of lose me on that a little.
Well, it's like, I mean, okay, he's done. It wasn't the Green Hornet. It was
no. He did Green Lantern.
Green Lantern. Thank you. He did the Green Lantern.
Every Deadpool movie, he rips that.
And right, even he makes fun of it.
Right.
The only good thing that came out of that was him meeting his wife.
Right.
And Deadpool. I thought the second Deadpool was not good. I thought the first one was phenomenal.
First one was phenomenal. Second one was like, eh.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get started. There's some hockey stuff going on.
Yep.
Hello Hockey World. Today is Friday, December 20th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Richard in the chat, R.I.P.D. was a horrific movie with Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges. It was like I just saw the trailer, and then I saw like 15 minutes of it on Hulu or whatever. It was just like there was no purpose for it. It's like, it's like watching Owen Wilson and Jackie Chan in one of those bad movies. Like they all seem the same, or Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. Like they're so interchangeable and they're all bad.
Well, Jeff Bridges is an acquired taste. I will say that.
I mean, I like Jeff Bridges. He's a great actor in some movies, but when he tries to do something like, back in the day he did Tron, that was terrible.
Right.
And then he did a movie recently with Chris Hemsworth. It was sort of like a dark comedy type of thing. Him and the Dakota Johnson from 50 Shades of Grey. It was just really, I was just puzzled by the movie. Like, what the hell is, I don't even remember the name of it, but I'm sure somebody knows what I'm talking about.
All right. So we have breaking news, but
go.
So we're going to talk about it in the vein of that Flyers destruction of the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay.
So here is the breaking news, and then we'll go backwards from this.
Okay.
So Jack Eichel said that he missed the game with an upper body injury and had been dealing with the ailment. So he won't say what it is. Said a decision hasn't been made whether he'll play Saturday against the Kings. All right. So here's my take on this.
Okay.
So yesterday, after the game, which was a total abomination, we'll get into the game at some point, Ralph Krueger comes out and won't answer anything. Mike Harrington's asking him 3 ways from Sunday, can you at least confirm anything here? And he's like, well, we don't want to get into the details or specifics. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Well, today's tomorrow, and there are no details and specifics. So this team is doing everything it can right now to deflect.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where they're really being dishonest with the fan base, because putting Eichel out there in practice now really muddies things up, because even he's saying, well, we don't know about Saturday yet, and he didn't play yesterday, and the fact that he didn't play derailed the whole game for the Sabres. So I don't understand the game plan here, like the overall game plan. And I'm not saying he has to divulge exactly what it is, but I'm saying there should be an explanation as to why he didn't play yesterday, more than what they've done, rather than just avoid everything.
Well, okay. First, let me answer the question that Adam asks in the chat, and then we'll get to what you were just talking about. The reason that Eichel's point streak is over with is because, in terms of point streaks, if he doesn't play in a game, even if it's because he's sick or injured, the streak is over with.
Which is ridiculous.
I saw the reports, and I'm like, well, at least his streak is not over with, and then they're saying it is. Mike Harrington reported yesterday that it was, and I'm like, okay, why does that make sense? It's like, okay, he was not available for the game, so the fact that he didn't play in a game ends the streak in terms of consecutive games. Now, if he scores in his next game, it's a personal 18-game point streak, but it's not consecutive.
Right.
So I don't agree with that interpretation, and
No.
And Elliot Friedman was talking about this online earlier this morning, because people were saying, well, why is Patrick Marleau's consecutive game streak count? And the reason is because he wasn't signed to a contract. He was signed when he was signed to San Jose. The next game that they played, he played in. so it kept his streak alive. But he didn't play at the beginning of the season because he was unsigned. As soon as he was signed, he started playing. That was the explanation. I think that's ridiculous. Now, as for the sort of shell game that's going on between Kruger and the media,
and it is a shell game.
Yeah, I get the feeling. I really get the feeling that what's going on here, because we know that there is a waiting period when it comes to concussions. We know that as soon as you say the word concussion, there's a 7-day period that, there's the evaluation period where he's got to go through, the testing and, all that. If they're not sure if it's a concussion and they're saying, well, they're not defining what's going on by keeping it undefined, they're not subject to the 7 days. So basically, they could come out and say, well, it was a neck injury. They're saying upper body. Oh, he had a pulled muscle in his neck, and then he can come right back. But they may not know what's going on. All I know is, why not say that?
Okay, well then, Mike, what's wrong with Jakob Larsson?
I don't know.
Okay, so do you see my point?
Right, no, they're not being. The thing is, they're not being specific with anyone.
No, but that's my point. Is if you're handling this way and you could be right, then how do I know they're not doing the same thing with Larsson?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, I don't agree with
me as a fan, or Adam, who is a fan, he can't have a lot of faith in this team, because right now, when they went through their best streak, he saw their best player be held out of a game. He doesn't know why, and then the team totally gave up in the game. Tanked beyond belief. The veterans were garbage on the ice. And as a fan, that's got to be disheartening, because they left Carter Hutton in to die. They should have taken him out of the first period, but Kruger was like, it's 2 points. Like, really dismissing that it's just a 2-point thing and it's not the end of the world.
And after you said that to me, I almost got the feeling that what was going on here was, and this is two-pronged. One, you're playing on the road against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is really good at home. The Sabres are not as good on the road. Their number one goalie of late is clearly Ullmark. They're playing Hutton. It's almost like, Jack, go ahead and sit out, because this is a throwaway game. And I don't know whether that was the approach, but it seemed like that, especially when they keep Hutton in after he gives up 6 goals. Now all of a sudden, Eichel's practicing, and it's up in the air whether he plays against LA. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. All I know is that if you're throwing, after losing in regulation to Toronto, now you lose another game in regulation to Philadelphia. Look at the next 2 games on their schedule. At home tomorrow afternoon against the LA Kings, and on the 23rd before the break against Ottawa. So they may think, okay, we have a good chance of winning those 2 games, but we should rest Eichel against Philadelphia because the chances of us winning that game are low. If that's the attitude, that's questionable.
Okay, so here's a quote about Larsson. So he's just being assessed upper body injury. Like, he's not just being assessed. He missed a good portion of that game.
Right.
So you're not just assessing him. You already know.
And do we know what happened to force him from the game?
No.
Right.
And here's the other thing. So when they asked about Jack, he said, you know what? About Jack not playing today, we'll fill you in a little bit more tomorrow. At the moment, it was something that evolved in warm-up, so we'll just look at the situation and get back to you tomorrow. Well, they did, and they didn't do it sufficiently. They didn't. So that's something else. And then when someone asked did it happen in warm-ups, he's like, let's not speak about the specifics right now, and we'll fill you in once we've assessed the situation. So we're now 12 hours later. Are they still assessing the situation, Mike? Like, this is garbage.
And Richard in the chat says, how is a potential 4-point game a throwaway game? I don't know. I'm not saying that should be the attitude, but that's the way it sounds that Kruger was treating it. It's only 2 points. There's no explanation of why your best player who has scored in 17 consecutive games is not playing. You're playing a backup who, by the way, for those Leaf fans out there who think that your backup goaltending situation is the worst in the NHL, you got a new champion. It's the Buffalo Sabres.
We do. And so here's the exact quote from Ralph Kruger.
Yeah.
There was no need for them to push hard in the third, so that's difficult to evaluate, and that's meaning the Flyers.
Right.
And yeah, we will look hard at it. For sure, we're not happy with what happened here today. But again, it's one game, it's 2 points, and it's the bounce back that really now is going to be the measure of our character. I disagree. The measure of your character was in that game without your captain, and they failed miserably.
Yeah, after the first 6 games of the season that he started, Carter Hutton was 6-0.
Right.
They were basically splitting. In fact, maybe even Hutton was starting more than Ullmark. Then he started to struggle, and Ullmark, I would say, over the last month has gotten the majority. I'd say 70 to 75% of the starts. In his last 10 starts, Carter Hutton, ex-favorite, is 0-6-4 with a 4.19 goals against and an 867 save percentage. That's 10 consecutive losses. For a team that is right now like in a battle with Montreal, Florida, Tampa, and Buffalo, that's as much a killer as Michael Hutchinson and Kazimir Kaskasuo getting 1 point out of 14 potential points. It's a killer.
It's a killer. All right, so here's the crumb that they've said about Larson today. Definitely going to be out for the next 2 games. There you go. He's hoping it's an issue they can manage. Okay, again, like we're getting a lot of hopes, a lot of we thinks, and I get the feeling they're stringing the fans along. Do you not get that feeling?
I just don't think that I have no reason that they wouldn't want to be accountable, but for some reason they're not being. And it's like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense because you would think that they would want, especially with a player as important as Eichel, that they would be forthcoming. Now, if it's something that is lingering and they think, okay, well, teams will target Eichel based on whatever this upper body injury is, I don't know. But usually you're a little more specific, especially when there's question of how long he's going to be out. So,
and Rodriguez is day to day. So the skeptic in me says none of them are playing tomorrow afternoon. None of them.
Right, because they can get away with it because it's LA.
Right.
But if they're out, then your number one center is probably either Marcus Johansson, who's a winger, and or either Sam Reinhart or boy. Yeah, I mean, it could be Johansson, it could be Reinhart, and then your number 2 center could be Curtis Lazar. So it's really a screw.
So I want to ask Adam out there, and I want to ask Sabres fans, when is it acceptable to just throw away the 2 points? Because that's what they did last night. And if those 3 don't play, they could be doing it again next game.
Yeah.
Because all you would call Curtis Lazar, like you said, and the lineup would be very weak. Like, this is just these – I don't know how else to say this. These points matter right now, especially to that team. And Ullmark's going to end up playing more games than he's ever played in his life.
Right.
Unless they're calling up the Hamburglar.
Okay, let's answer a couple things in the chat. One, Reinhart has played right wing most of his NHL career. He played center in junior. He played center in the World Junior, but he's been mostly a right winger, and he's enjoyed most of his success in the NHL as a right winger. Gergensen has played center, but he's been mostly a right winger playing with Larson. Flamester, the Leafs traded their first, but there was conditions on their first in the Marleau deal. If they miss the playoffs, if the pick is in the top 10, they keep it. So it's a conditional first. So it's either going to be 2020 or 2021 to Carolina.
Right.
I'm sure the Leafs and Kyle Dubas are praying that it's 2021 because them finishing with the top 10 pick this year would be a disaster based on what they did in terms of making short-term moves to be an improved contender. So, I mean, there's let's just say this. It was funny because I was getting a lot of texts and messages from Leaf fans thinking the Leafs were going to make some deals before the holiday trade freeze. I knew that they weren't, because the focus of what they were potentially going to do was a backup goaltender. And Sheldon Keefe came out yesterday and said that Hutchinson was starting tomorrow night against Detroit. He wouldn't have announced that if they had plans to go out and get themselves a backup goaltender. So the trade freeze is until the 27th, midnight on the 28th. So we're talking 7-8 days. No moves, no trades can happen, but there could be waivers and there could be signings. As we talked about Kovalchuk, if there's a team that is interested, they could sign him in that window, but there won't be any trades until the 27th. It was funny, Russ, that I saw in one of I think it was the Insiders TSN with LeBron and Bob McKenzie and Drager talking about the fact that there were a lot of defensemen out there available. And the Ottawa Senators last night in the game, they lost. Let me see. I thought they lost, but let me just double check.
I'm going to just show you now.
No, they won 5-4 in overtime.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I was looking at some tweets, right? And when you're not very clear about what's going on with your team, then there's misinformation online like crazy. Like, so this guy writes, breaking news, Jack Eichel hurt in practice, hit by Bogosian slap shot, out indefinitely. And of course it's garbage. But how do fans know? Because how do they don't know what's going on right now. They have no idea.
Right. Yeah. I mean, usually if it's somebody with a check mark, then you are
you know that, but you know what I'm saying. Otherwise.
No, I mean, there's a lot. There is.
I don't have a check mark as an example.
Neither do I. There's room for speculation out there, but it's some of it is rampant and irresponsible, and that you have to be skeptical with anything that you see on Twitter. No, it was the Senators had won 5-4 over the Predators in overtime, and in that game, Thomas Chabot played 34 minutes. And this is the second time he's played over 30 minutes this week. And Darren Drager this morning on Toronto radio said, well, there's lots of defensemen out there that Pierre Dorion could trade for. But I mean, they're going so far because apparently their organizational depth is so thin right now, with Hainsey out, with Zaitsev out, another defenseman is out. They're talking about pulling a kid out of the Swedish league and bringing him over to play. And I don't know if they're going to bring him over to play in Belleville, or if they're bringing him over to insert him into the NHL. But that's the situation that they're in right now. And when Drager asks, why haven't they traded for a defenseman? Darren, who's the owner of the Ottawa Senators? Do you really think that Eugene Melnyk wants to trade for Zach Bogosian or Marco Scandella or Jake Gardner or Trevor Van Riemsdyk? One, it'll cost him assets, and B, it'll cost him money that he doesn't want to spend. Right. So why is he not trading for him? Because he's cheap. That's why.
Yeah, of course.
Because he's in financial trouble right now.
Yeah.
So, and that team is not contending for a playoff spot. If they were, then they would be shirking their responsibility if they didn't go out and add a defenseman. But they're not interested in making the playoffs unless everything falls into place and it doesn't cost them anything more.
I agree. I mean, and didn't we see that where Chabot said he didn't mind?
Yeah.
So, of course he's going to say he doesn't mind, because hockey players want to be out there and they want the ice time. But
the point is that you're making a player vulnerable by playing that many minutes and being more susceptible to injury. So I mean, it's not the question of whether he's willing to play it or not. I'm sure he is. He's a young kid. He's talented. He just got an 8-year, $64 million extension. I'm sure, he has the work ethic that he wants to go out and earn his money and show that he's worth it. But uh-oh. We have a freeze here with Russ. Hold on. You froze there, Russ, for a sec.
I know. I just think it's trouble for when you're talking about a guy of that age. I'm going to switch my.
Eugene Melnyk hacked into your internet. That's why we were criticizing him. So he decided. All right, let's talk about some games other than Flyers and Sabres. Like I said, Senators beat the Predators 5-4 in overtime. Predators can't really complain about their East Coast swing here because they won against the Rangers, they beat the Islanders, and now they got a point out of Ottawa. So 5 of a possible 6 is not too shabby. Are you good, Russ, or are you still okay? There we go.
Who knows what?
Okay, well, it's working now.
Okay.
I was checking the scores last night. I was watching a few games, just flipping around, and because the Sabres game was unwatchable at a certain point. And I looked at the score, and it was Tampa Bay 3, Dallas 1.
Right.
And turned around, watched a couple other games, flip it back, and the Stars win 4-3 in overtime. According to the and I just watched the highlights on this game, so I didn't know what the general swing of things was, but the observations of the hosts on Hockey Central was Dallas played a terrible game, Tampa Bay played good, but somehow at the end of it, Dallas came out on the winning side with Tyler Seguin scoring in overtime, and I'm like, okay, this should be a warning sign again with Tampa. They're starting to use up the games in hand that they had. I think they're 33 now. Most of the teams in the Atlantic are 35 or 36. So they have 2 to 3 games in hand. And they've drawn closer to being even with those teams. But they're still struggling, Russ. They're still in trouble because they're just not playing what we expected out of that team.
So you're telling me there's a chance they tuned this coach out? That's what you're telling me?
Well, I mean, he's doing things like benching Kucherov, which I don't think in the past he would have done. They observed this, that Vasilevsky is not playing like the Vezina Trophy winning Vasilevsky. So, goaltending is the great equalizer. If you're not getting him playing at 920 and he's playing at 906, that's the difference between winning and losing games sometimes. That one goal.
It is. And I think they're going to struggle. Like, they're going to be that team that will limp in and probably be a wild card. Now, once we get in the playoffs, no one's going to want to face them because of the amount of talent they have.
Right.
If they did get hot, they could do a St. Louis Blues and certainly walk in and win the Stanley Cup. But I don't know. I think they tuned out this coach. I thought it since the end of last year. I'm sticking with it. I disagree with X saying, and you saying, well, we've paid the guy. It's too early to fire him. I never think it's too early to fire him, especially if you're a billionaire. You know what? This is a situation where this team is toiling. Not toiling for the average team, toiling for the amount of talent they have.
But again, I don't think they're going to fire him because they just signed him to a contract, and I think they're going to give him the year. If they fall flat in their face, miss the playoffs, or lose in the first round again, then I think he's toast. But I don't.
You know what? Then it's even worse because that has future ramifications for the team. Forgetting about the next coach that takes over because they already have a lousy cap situation,
right?
And they have aging players.
All right, some other games. The Chicago Blackhawks, on the strength of 1 goal and 3 assists from Patrick Kane, beat Winnipeg 4-1. Now they win, but they're really struggling at the bottom of the Western Conference standings.
They're a bad team, but Kane can do that once in a while.
Right, and that's sort of similar to what Edmonton had with McDavid and so they can cover up a lot of ills. But
Kane's having an amazing year.
I mean, let's just say this, because I know that you've been a harsh critic of Colleton, and I understand why, and I think it's justified. But again, he's been coach for just over a calendar year.
So what's the record in that calendar year?
I don't. I can look it up.
I'm just saying it's not good. We know it's not great.
Well, they had a great,
a little bit of a run last year, no question.
Right, they had a great second half. So, I mean, let's see here. This is great. This is great webcasting here, guys. But I'm just trying to.
Hey, we don't have. We're not a big network. We don't have all the stats at our fingertips.
Okay, so he was last year in 67 games. He was 30, 28, and 9. So he was 2 games over 500. And if you calculate
technically a losing record, but
a losing record, but the way they calculate 500 this year, these days, it's that's 2 games over 500. Now this year, pulling up his record.
I got it. It's 14 and 16 and 6.
So he's 500.
No. 14, 16, and 6.
Right, but he was 30 and 28. So
now
now
500 overall. Okay.
Yeah, 40
really under it. Really under that.
Right, loser points. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he's got the same. It's just.
I mean, there's no way he survives to next year. There's no way, because they can't sell this again to their fan base. Like, they're trying new and improved ways to sell this team to their fan base by, like, hey, look, we've got Strome and DeBrincat, and we're doing things, we're rebuilding, we're getting better, but they're not getting better, and guys are just getting older.
Okay, just to answer Richard in the chat, Richard, I hope you have a bottle of vodka in front of you, because we're waiting for Anna. I'll go and get a gray shirt. Edmonton will miss the playoffs, and we'll talk about the Leafs' backup goaltending. So line up 4 shots, drink them, and you'll have alcohol poisoning by the end of the show. Okay, the Hurricanes beat the Avalanche 3-1. This game,
that's a good win.
That's a good win. The Canadians pull out another one on their Western Canadian road swing. They were down 2-0 to Calgary. They were down 3-2 late in the third. They tied it up, and then they win it in overtime 4-3. And I watched some of this game, and Max Domi had the goal in overtime for Montreal.
Les Habitants are sticking it to Mike.
What's that? I
said Les Habitants are sticking it to Mike.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I mean, I still don't think this team is good enough to make the playoffs, but we'll see. We got 50 some odd games to go. Now, here's this could be the score. The score in this game was indicative of a couple things. Minnesota beating Arizona 8-5.
I watched this game too. I did.
Yeah, in this game, Darcy Kemper got hurt. Apparently, I didn't see it, but apparently it was a serious groin injury. Now, that means it swings back in terms of their burden in goal on Antti Ranta, who has always been injury prone.
Yep.
So this has been the problem over the last couple of years when it comes to the Coyotes. It is the goaltending and having depth in goal. I mean, they will bring up Aiden Hill now to be the backup. But they're going to have to rely on Ranta a lot. And if it's a serious groin injury, then Kemper, who's been their starter and they've leaned on heavily, he could be out for 2 months.
Yeah, this is going to affect the Coyotes. They just need to make the playoffs and get Kemper back. They're not going to win anything with Ranta. I think we all agree on that. So that's what the hope is. But I will tell you in this game, so pregame, Devin Dubnyk gave like a pep talk. And they gave him the crazy helmet to wear, and so he went out there and he had his ups and downs, but he hasn't played in a while.
Right.
So that's to be expected. But the team really rallied for him, Mike. And they had the lead. They eventually lost the lead, and then they built on the lead again. And that was impressive for them, because at the end of the day, Arizona still has a good defense, regardless of who's in net. And there were like 5 goals scored in minute 30.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I will tell you this, a little bit of hope. If you want to give a little bit of hope to the Minnesota Wild, Matt Zuccarello is fitting in very well there now, and he's starting to make a little magic.
Yeah, and they've climbed back from the depths of the bottom of the Western Conference. Now 39 points, 17, 14, and 5. They're only 2 points behind Calgary. They're 5 points in back of third place Dallas in the Central, but they're back in the mix now.
Yeah.
Now that they get Dubnyk back, we know that Dubnyk can go on a run. We know that he plays really well, especially in the middle of the season. He usually gets off to a slow start and then plays really good in December, January, February. So yeah, they're back in it now. It's a question. I don't think they really have the cap space to make any kind of moves. They get Spurgeon back, which is big for them. So,
they do have guys still developing. Like Cunnin had points in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have guys developing still, and I think that's going to mean something.
Yeah. Just a few more games in terms of scores. Let's see here. We have. The Canucks beating the Golden Knights 5-4 in overtime.
That's a telling one. Because the Knights were up in that game before I left to go see the movie. I forget what score they were up.
I'm looking right now. It was 1-0, 2-0, 3-1.
3-1, yeah.
3-1 Vancouver.
Oh, it was 3-1 Vancouver. Okay.
Well, then Vegas came back, scored 2 goals.
Oh, that's what it was. They tied it when I left.
In the second period, then they exchanged goals in the third, and then of all people, Chris Tanev scores in overtime to give the Canucks a victory. Now, they've slipped a lot lately.
They have.
And it's again that bugaboo that we thought back when we were at the draft in Vancouver. Yeah, they're going to be able to score a ton of goals, but are they going to be able to keep them out of their net? Defensively, I know they added Tyler Myers. They added, I think, Jordy Ben, and added some forwards, but they're
still a middle of the road defense.
Yeah, it's not good, and they're tied with Nashville. They're 1 point behind Minnesota. The only good thing for them is that in the Pacific Division, they're only 4 points behind Edmonton and 6 points behind Arizona and Vegas.
The division stinks. I mean,
right, and then that's the thing. It's like, I mean, everybody's looking at Edmonton and saying, "Wow, they're in first place in the Pacific."
It stinks.
Yeah, they've lost a few games in a row, and now they're in third place in the Pacific, and they're a point out of dropping out of the playoff race. So, yeah, I mean, come on.
They don't lead with that anymore on Hockey Central, do they? With the Edmonton Oilers?
No, because they're a flawed team.
Yeah.
And, Joe is losing his mind in the chat saying, "Why aren't you talking about the Islanders beating the Bruins?"
Joe, it's on there. Hang on there, guy.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're done with the scores.
We just reported it, right? The Islanders beat the Bruins.
Yeah, the Islanders beat the Bruins. That's all we have to say about that subject. Let's talk more about movies.
No, that was an OT win, though, right? So that's
Johnny Boychuk gets a goal in this game, and let me see how many. It only went. Okay, I thought it was a long shootout, but Eberle scored, Coyle missed, Barzal scored, Pasternak scored. They stopped Marchand. So
did Trotz complain about the Bruins, who they used in the shootout for this game?
I don't think so, but I don't think he has as much hatred for Bruce Cassidy as he does for Peter Laviolette. Okay, trivia question from Caleb C. for Mike and Russ. Out of the 75 goalies who have played this year, how many catch right-handed? I think it's 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2. I think isn't Saros
Mason used to be also, but he's out now. So
yeah, I think like Saros is 3. Is it 3? Well, okay. Let's see if Caleb answers it, because Bill C said 3, but I don't know if that's the. Is Anna Buzz over? Is Anna Buzz over yet? I told you Anna is starring in the new holiday release Cats.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering if there are going to be lines around the block for Cats. There are people who can't get into Star Wars and say, let's go see Cats.
She has no interest.
3. Louis Domingue, Michael Hutchinson, and our favorite Pavel Francouz.
The Francouz, yeah.
Now, okay, let's just look at the standings because we're getting close to the halfway mark here. We'll take some questions at the end of the show here. But right now, here we go. Everybody's between 33 and 36 games. So by the end of the month, everybody will be at around 40. So expect our half a season report cards. In the Atlantic, Boston at 50, Montreal at 40, Buffalo at 39, Tampa, Toronto at 38. In the Metro, Washington at 53, Islanders at 48, Carolina at 46, Pittsburgh at 44, and Philly at 43, holding down the 2 wildcard spots. Any surprises there?
I think Carolina's doing a good job of holding their own. And the Islanders are dropping a little bit, but nothing major. By the way, and something to talk about. I think it's John Tonelli and Butch Goring are getting their numbers retired.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And as a Ranger fan growing up, Tonelli was a hell of a player, man. I mean, the hatred was great for him. He was really good. I happen to like Butch Goring. Butch Goring is a great guy. I talk to him every time he's in town. He is so much fun.
Okay. I have no dispute with either one of them. Tonelli wore 27 and was a great player for those cup-winning teams. Butch Goring, if I'm not mistaken, he wore 91.
Yep.
They're retiring Butch Goring. Do you think there's any backstabbery here against Tavares?
Ask Joe. See what Joe thinks.
Okay, Joe, we're putting you to the test here because I think this is a troll move by the Islanders organization. This is like, okay, John, you left us. Now we're going to retire the number and we're going to stick it to you because we're going to say it's Butch Goring's number. And now we can't retire it for you because even though you played 9 years for the Islanders, I get the feeling there's a little troll job here, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
Well, I'm checking something on the Islanders' retired numbers actually because.
Well, let me see if I can. Do you have them up there?
Yeah, I have them.
Okay, let me see if I can get. How many are there?
6.
Okay, there are 4 there, 3 there, or 5, 4 that are easy. Potvin, Bossy, Trottier, Billy Smith.
Right.
Gillies 9.
Yep, Gillies. Yep.
Okay, so that entire line, Potvin, Billy Smith. I don't think they would have retired Chico.
Nope.
Okay, who else from that great team?
He's a Met fan. I'll tell you that.
Bobby Nystrom?
Bobby Nystrom.
Okay. Honestly, though, I almost think that Tonelli and Goring are more deserving than Nystrom. Nystrom scored the biggest goal.
Well, here's my issue. I would put Ken Morrow in before Butch Goring. No slight to Butch.
Yeah.
Ken Morrow was rock solid. He was great with them. He was great with the Olympics. He took really tough assignments, but he's a defensive defenseman.
Yeah.
But I would retire Ken Morrow. I would. He was rock solid.
Richard said Nystrom is still offside. Okay, if I have to let go Don Dankinger, 1985, you can let go Bob Nystrom.
And I would expunge Lauren Henning from ever being an Islander. I would erase his complete record of him ever being an Islander. Okay. Wow. I just didn't like him.
Okay, jerk ball. Okay, let's talk about this. And I know this is a little Toronto centric, but it covers a couple different teams. And okay, first one, jerk ball here says the Islanders have benched Leo Komarov. He's got 3 more years. I think he actually has 2 because this is year 2 of the 4-year deal. Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure he's only got 2 more years after this year. Here we go. Komarov, yeah, it was a 4-year, $12 million contract. He's got 2 more years at $3 million, but he is now being benched according to Jerkball. If that's the case, and they've already been benching Matt Martin. Mm-hmm. He's in the last year of his contract. There are 2 guys that the Leafs moved on from, and the next place they've gone to, they're basically, they're not fulfilling the new contracts or the remaining part of their contracts that they had. Nikita Zaitsev is on IR, but with all the stuff that was going on with him, and we still don't know what the deal was with him in Russia. It was and I don't really want to get into it, but it was obviously something that was well covered. He was playing pretty decently for them, but this is obviously some sort of distraction. The one that is the most surprising, well, not to me, because I always thought he was crap, is Jake Gardiner. Jake Gardiner signed a 4-year deal for about the same amount of money that he was with Toronto. After waiting for most of the summer, I think he signed it in September. He is not moved into the top 4 with Carolina, and now, according to Pierre LeBrun and some other reports, Jake Gardner is being shopped. And it's like, good luck, folks. Good luck. I'm looking up right now on Cap Friendly to see if he has any no trade provisions in his contract. I'm assuming that he did, but
I'm assuming he did too.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he has a modified no trade clause. Jake Gardner right now, after almost half a season with Carolina, has 8 points, 2 goals and 6 assists, and he's a -17. I want to hear from all the analytics people that said that Jake Gardner was one of the best defensemen on the Leafs and one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Where are they now? Because he never was, and he never will be.
Nope, that's fair. I mean, it was a horrible signing. It's not gone well. You had some interaction with somebody that says it's not going well in Carolina with Jake Gardner.
Yeah, and it was funny because, and I think it was an article in The Athletic. I only saw the report of it. I didn't read the article, but the indicator of the headline was that Gardner did not want to sign with Montreal because even though Montreal offered him more money per year, I think it was $5 million, but a shorter term, 3 years, that he didn't want to go to Montreal, in part because he didn't want to have to play against Toronto 4 times a year.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I'd heard was he didn't want to play in Montreal because Montreal media and Montreal fans, if you think Toronto is a fishbowl, what do you think Montreal is? I mean, they'd probably be terrorizing his condo if he played a bad game. And I'm just joking here, but I'm just saying, that's the reaction sometimes.
All right. Something we didn't mention, and I did see this just before I left the house, but again, I've had 4 hours sleep, so it took me a minute to figure it out, and now I've gotten an update. So in that Canucks game, Nick Holden pushes Josh Levo from behind. His leg gets caught in the boards. He crumples. No call. Nothing. Levo goes to the bench. He's limping. He smashes his stick on the sideboards, which he would never do, and limps into the locker room. Now they're called up Zach McEwen because Levo's out. On the next time that Holden was out on the ice, he gets a game-tying goal.
Boy. Okay, just touching on a couple things in the chat here.
People get frustrated with the referee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, but I think Opozo's hit on Dermott on Tuesday night was borderline suspendable, and he didn't.
On this show, we used to have, 4 or 5 a week.
Right.
Now we're getting 4 or 5 a night. Doesn't it seem that way?
Yeah, it seems that there are a lot more borderline calls, and I mean, you can ask why that is. Well, is there any fighting in the league anymore? Is there any, record?
That's what we're always told by players. If you don't let them fight, this is what the end result is. The cheap shots start coming out because of frustration.
You were at the game last night. That whole thing with Dahlin and Konechny.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I sit next to a guy who's a USA Hockey referee, right? After all of that happened and Giroux, a guy whacked Dahlin a little bit. Somebody was punching Konechny in the face while they were on the ice.
It was Dahlin had his stick with his hands and he punched him with the hand. Right. It didn't look like the stick, but then Konechny went down like he'd been shot.
Right. And look, was there some embellishment? Sure. But once he's down and getting hit like that, Dahlin should have been kicked out of the game. And what the other referee told me was to restore order in the game. And that does mean something, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it, but it just seems that the absence of fighting and the increase of the cheap hits are going hand in hand. Now, Jerkball is definitely trying to be a jerk in the chat because he's saying
his name.
Yeah, he's living up to his name because he's saying things that he knows will irritate me, because he says that Gardner was one of the best defensemen on the Leafs. That's why the Leafs defense sucks this year. No, he was honestly, he was the most overrated defenseman on this team. He gave away the puck at the worst possible time. His numbers did not, everybody saw his numbers, his possession numbers, and thought he was a good defenseman. He was never a good defenseman. But you can believe what you believe. I'll believe the truth.
All right. Actually, so we have an Islanders update here. Breaking news.
Okay.
So Morello, suck it.
Sorry, Joe.
Alvis Connens is saying Ilya Soroka spoke about the rumors of been wanting his rights traded, and he goes, "It's the first time I'm hearing of this. My only current focus is on Ciska and this season."
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody got to him.
Yeah, let's see. Lou, maybe.
I think he realized that's not.
You don't mess with the mob.
Yeah.
Jerkball also said, Nylander is our most consistent, impactful forward this season, which is why we have struggled.
Right.
No. Okay. I just had to say that just to say that Jerkball is being a jerk. Let's see here.
Very well pointed out. Noted.
Couple other things in the chat here. Wow, for some reason it just fast forwarded. Okay, here we go. NASCAR asks, does Hutchinson win tonight? He doesn't start tonight. He's playing tomorrow against Detroit. I'm thinking the Leafs will give him another start after Saturday when they play a back-to-back next weekend. If he loses both of them, then I think you'll see Dubas hop into action and look for the backup goaltender, even if it costs him a little more than people suspect. I think they would have to at that point. If they had played 9 starts and get 1 point out of a possible 18, that might be the end for that. Guys, how can you say the Metro is what you expected when you both picked the Rangers for 3rd place? Well, I mean, I'm
just that far out.
Yeah, I mean, right now the Rangers.
We didn't say it was what expected. Mike asked me, is there any surprises?
Right.
So right now, at this point in the season, I'm not surprised. If you did listen, if you want to call me on my own stuff, I said I felt like the Rangers would gel together later in the season.
I mean, I'm telling you right now, I did not expect the Islanders to finish in the top 3, and I still don't think they will.
Right, but again, this is where we are right now.
Right.
You're asking me, is there something – I'm already slightly wrong about the Islanders. So with the start they got, of course I'm not surprised where they are right now. No. It's math.
Terry's GG&G. Compare Gardner and Ceci now and then. Wait, I'm not sure what he's asking here.
He's just asking you to compare and contrast Ceci and Gardner.
And say who is the worst of the two?
In what way? Define that.
Okay, right. And this is the thing. I'll give you the breakdown. Gardner was a top 4 defenseman on the Leafs, playing on the left side and playing over 20 minutes a night. He was a second power play guy, and he didn't play penalty kill. So, and he would still have giveaways. His plus minus was good, and last year I don't think it was as good as the previous years, but he would find a way to make bad giveaways at bad times. Ceci was misserved by being put on the top pair by Babcock. He's never been a top pair defenseman in Ottawa. He was only put on the top pair because he was right-handed. And Babcock was not going to put Barry on the top pairing or Hull on the top pairing. I think Ceci suffered because of that. I think Morgan Riley had tried to cover up for him. Now Ceci's playing on the bottom pairing with Dermott. He's a right-hander, and he's killing penalties. Their roles are different. Do I think Gardner is more talented than Ceci? Yes. Do I think Ceci is a better bottom pairing guy than Gardner is a top 4 guy? Yeah, I do.
So now we're going to compare and contrast Michael Hutchinson and James Reimer next? Like, well, what's next?
Yeah, and James Reimer was a starter and Michael Hutchinson was a backup. So it's like, come on. Let's see here. A few more questions or comments and we'll end here. Over under on dinner plates during Christmas? Huh? Adam? What? I don't know what
will be on the table?
Yeah, or how many I'll clean in terms by eating. I'm not sure what you're asking here. Let's see here. Flyers are going to the finals of a golf tournament. Nice. Gardner time to finish beer. Okay, these are great questions and comments, folks.
This is
All right.
the end of the week, man.
Yeah, question for Russ from Caleb. When do you think Kalen Addison or P.O. Joseph could make the jump to the NHL? Last year of junior for Addison, POJ playing in first year in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre.
POJ is probably ahead of him, but he really has to build himself up physically.
Yeah.
That will really change his game because he was ultra skinny when he got drafted. And even as of a year ago when I saw him last summer, was still fairly skinny. Doesn't mean he can't survive in the NHL, but I think he's closer than Addison. But if Addison were to have a great World Junior, that could really put him on a different level. He's going to probably play third pair, though, so we'll see. But he is, he's figured out nutrition and training, and I saw what could be really terrific offensive play in him when he was a little spongy as a player. Now that he's in much better shape, he's a much better player. So I actually kind of like Kalen Addison better than Joseph, but I think Joseph's slightly ahead of him in the development.
And the funny thing is that Pittsburgh seems to be on the verge of sort of a transition on their blue line. I don't think they're going to re-sign Justin Schultz at $5.5 million. When they
will. No, they will, and I'm going to tell you why. When they won the Cup, he was a massive reason why. You go look at his playoff numbers since he's been in Pittsburgh, and especially the last couple of playoffs, very good. Like, they won't be able to replace that.
Well, I mean, first of all, they're going to lose Galchenyuk. That opens up almost $5 million.
When did they lose Jack Johnson?
Well, he's got 3 more years.
Oh,
that's why he won't be bought out. I mean, he could be a Seattle.
He could be a Seattle.
But Schultz is making 5.5. If he takes a little bit less, maybe they can sign him. But I'm looking at their future. Pettersson has been a really good defenseman. Marino has come out of nowhere to be.
I watched him in college. He didn't come out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, for other people, not people like you who actually know what's going on.
Okay, all right.
but I'm saying Marino and Pettersson on top of the 2 young defensemen we just talked about. They could have 3 or 4 young defensemen, and maybe they can afford to let Schultz go if they don't want to pay him $6 million for 3 or 4 more years. So, I mean, anything is possible. But let's see, any more questions? No, that's it.
Okay,
and your phone is ringing, so
it doesn't matter. It's nobody.
Yeah, it's Disney. They're pissed off that I blew the secret on Star Wars.
I'm just glad I signed up for a service the other day that gets rid of junk mail and robocalls, and so I've gotten 2 during the show, so it's going great. It only costs $2, so
it's working perfectly.
It only costs a couple of bucks. So
all right, great show. We'll be back on Monday for another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz,